Hello. Yes, my name is Safarius Salmon Mejage from Edukea Tanzania. Welcome in this session to proceed with our topic, which is the rise of socialism. On the last session, we ended on the factors for the Russian Revolution of October 1917. So let us proceed with the effects of the Russian Revolution to Russians. What were the effects of Russian Revolution to the Russians? The first one was the revolution managed to overthrow the provisional government of Kremlin and established the Bolshevik government under Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. It means that the revolution of October 1917 managed to overthrow the provisional government that was formed after the failure of Prince Lvov, who succeeded the Tsar Nicholas II after resignation of the rule. So the overthrowing the provisional government of Kremlin and establishing the Bolshevik government under Vladimir Ilyich Lenin was made the relief to the people of Russia. So that was the effect number one of Russian Revolution. The second one was Russia was immediately able to restore peace, security, and bring unity among the Russians after withdrawing from World War I. It means that Russia was immediately able to restore peace, security, and bring unity among the Russians soon after withdrawing from the First World War. It means that after the revolution in October 1917, the Russian government withdrew themselves from the participation of First World War and ensuring to restore peace, security, and unity among the Russians in order to make and ensure the development among the Russians and Russia in general. Another effect was Russia was nationalizing all of the private properties such as crown land, landlord land, churches land without compensation and gave it to the peasant through peasant committee. Likewise, the foreign investments, which was the industries, were nationalized, but because the industries nationalized belongs to the Western power, it led to the occurrence of the war between the whites or army of Western investors against the Reds or Bolshevik arm from 1918 to 1920. However, the Bolshevik won the war. It means that another effect of Bolshevik Revolution or Russian Revolution of October 1917 led to the nationalization of all the private properties such as churches land, landlords land, and crown land, and given to the majority peasants of Russia. And those all other assets like industries that were invested by the foreigners, Western foreigners, were only or nationalized by the Bolshevik government. And that nationalization of those assets or investments brought the war that was fought from 1918 to 1920 between the Reds or Bolshevik army against the army of Western investors. However, the Bolshevik won the war, and that was another effect of Russian Revolution of October 1917 in Russia. Another effect was the church and the states were separated while religions and the education religions and the education in school was abolished, or secular states was abolished. It means that the church and the states were separated, while religions and religion and the education in school was abolished. You can see that before the revolution, it means there was the Russian country was the secular, it was the secular states that were, it means that the religion matter were interacting the governmental matters. So you can see that the church and the state were separated, while the religions and education in school was abolished. It means that the religion matters were remained as the religion matters, and the school matters were remained as school matters. So that was another effects of Bolshevik Revolution of October 1917. Also, class differences in the societies were abolished, in which equality between man by man, sexes was observed, and decree or law was passed against the inheritance of property. It means that the class difference or class stratification in Russian society was abolished, and the equality between man by man, sexes, and as well as gender was observed, and the laws were passed or enacted against the inheritance of property in Russia. And that was all the effects of the 1917 Russian Revolution that was done by the Bolshevik Party under the Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. Another effect was the revolution led the communists of the Bolshevik Party to be able to consolidate themselves in power by using different mechanisms. For example, using special secret police called Cheka to appoint with imprison, to kill or exile the anti-communist leadership, whereby some people exiled early and all anti-communist elements in Russian society was eliminated. It means that the revolution led the communists of Bolshevik Party to be able to consolidate themselves in power by using different mechanisms. As we can see that after the succession of the power by the Bolshevik Party in October 1917, it means that the government managed to consolidate themselves by using different mechanisms to ensure that they are remaining in power. And thus, mechanisms they used included like the using of secret police or special secret police that were spying those who were anti-communism in Russia. And those who were anti-communist, all leaders were exiled or were executed in order to ensure that the communism in Russia is consolidated by the Bolshevik power or Bolshevik government. And all anti-communist elements in Russia were eliminated. As we can see that the leaders who were anti-communist were exiled or others were killed or executed. And thus made the communism in Russia to be consolidated under Vladimir Ilyich Lenin from 1917 in October. And another, it means that in 1921 Lenin introduced a special program known as the New Economic Policy, NEP, by which a limited degree of capitalism was allowed. For example, people were allowed to own smaller enterprises, smaller scale industry, not allowed to own and control the key economic sectors, for example, banking, heavy industries, and the foreign trade, etc. It means that in 1921, Lenin introduced a special program known as the New Economic Policy. This was the designed economic policy by the Vladimir Ilyich Lenin in 1921 to ensure that the Russian country is centralizing or making the economy of Russia to be centralized under central government, whereby there were limited degree of capitalism were allowed. like people were allowed to own small enterprises, like small businesses, small scale industries, but not allowed to own and control the key economic sectors like banking system, heavy industries, and the foreign trade activities were not allowed, because they feared that if they will allow people to own those big sectors or key economic sectors, capitalism will be restored. So that was more explanation about the effects of Bolshevik revolution. In addition, in promoting the development of the country, the 5 years development plan was started by the Bolsheviks starting from 1928 up to 1932. And 1932 to 1937, also the 1937 to 1942, and 1942 to 1947, as well as the last one was 1947 to 1952. These were 5 years development plans that were designed by the Russian government to ensure that within these time periods they are ensuring their different programs which have been established, and to make sure that they are succeeding in introducing different development projects for development of Russia and the majority people of Russia. In this program, the Bolshevik mobilized the people, but also the Bolshevik were responsible to evaluate the success of the goals by directing people to involve in expected goals of development. It means that in this program, or the economic plan, the 5 years development plan that were done by the Bolshevik government, the Bolshevik mobilized the people, but also the Bolshevik were responsible to evaluate the success of the goals that were designed by the government by directing people to involve in expected goals of development. Also, the Bolshevik Party had a socialist democratic structure for mass participation in discussion, decision making, and the implementation of the goals, and this structure was from the grassroots level to the national level, which always ensured the discipline and the national unit within the party, but it also directed the Russian foreign policy, education, and the other in Russian society. So that was all about the Russian society, Russian Revolution of October 1917, as these were the effects and what was done by the Bolshevik Party as it took the power from the Kerensky. So let us see the impacts of Russian Revolution of October 1917 worldwide. What were the impacts of Russian Revolution of October 1917 to the world? The effects of Russian Revolution to the world. What we have seen the effects of Russian Revolution to the Russians. So now we are going to see the effects of Russian Revolution of October 1917 to the world or worldwide. The first effect was the revolution led to the spread of socialist and communist ideas in different parts of the world, especially in Eastern Europe, Asia, Southern America, and in Africa. We can see that the Russian Revolution led to the spread of socialist and communist ideas in different parts of the world, as we can see in Eastern Europe, you can see in Asia, you can see Southern America and Africa. These were different parts of the world which adapted and implemented the socialist and the communist ideas. As we can see in Africa, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere was adapted the different socialist ideas or communist ideas that was copied from during the Bolshevik Revolution. So we can see that the Ujamaa and self-reliance was the socialist ideas, idea that was implemented by Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere in Tanzania. But also Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana was adapted socialism. In Uganda, socialism was adapted, but in other countries like in India, socialism was adapted. China in Asia was adapted, and other countries like Indonesia, Burma, and other countries in Asia, also in Southern America, as well as Eastern Europe. The spread of Asia to Asian, the spread of Asia to Asian, whereby the several states mainly are the socialist states like China, North Korea, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Northern America to Cuba, Southern America it spread to Chile, and in Africa was in Mozambique, Tanganyika, Angola, Ghana, Egypt, etc. It means that the socialist and the communist ideas were spread in different parts of the world, as we have seen. Angola, Egypt, Mozambique, Tanganyika, Angola, Ghana. These were the African countries that were adapted socialist and the communist ideas that was the result of Russian Revolution of October 1917 that was done by the Bolshevik leaders like Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. But Cambodia, Cuba, in Eastern Europe, we can see China, Northern Korea, and other countries in Asia were adapted communist and the socialist ideas. Also, the October Revolution of 1917 led to Cold War politics in the world between the Eastern camp led by the USSR or United Soviet Socialist Republic and the Western camp under United States of America, whereby these two camps followed different ideology. That's why it led to the emergence of Cold War politics. It means that the October Revolution of 1917 led to the emergence of Cold War politics, whereby the two camps were emerged, USSR and Russia, and on the other side there was United States of America. That was the capitalist camp, and the USSR was socialist camp. It means that every camp was struggling to spread their ideas or to spread his or her idea in different parts of the world, and that brought the emergence of Cold War politics. As you can see, the Cold War we look on the if I'm not mistaken, it is just the seventh topic in history 2, the threat to the world peace. We saw that the threat to the world peace was, among of them was Cold War, the Cold War between the two blocks, Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc, between the USSR and the USA. So the Cold War was accelerated by the October Revolution of 1917. Also, the effects of Russian Revolution of October 1917 of Russia to the world was led to the formation of military alliance between the Eastern camp and the Western camp, where each camp formed a military alliance to defend each other. And for example, the Eastern camp with socialist ideology formed the Warsaw Pact in 1950, while the Western camp with the capitalism ideology formed the NATO in 1948. It means that the revolution led to the formation of military alliances, and these military alliances were there to support, to give support when the members is invaded by the enemy. So you can see that the Eastern Bloc, under the USSR, the Warsaw Pact in 1950 was formed in order to defend against the capitalist bloc. So Russia decided to form the Warsaw Pact as a response to USA that formed the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, in 1945. This was, in 1948, that was the response that was done by Russia to form Warsaw Pact as the military alliance that was involving the socialist countries to support each other once there is the invasion of member of that military alliance. So that was another effect of revolution that was done in Russia in October 1917. But also the revolution of 1917 led to the decolonization process in the colonized areas in Africa and Asia. It means that the October 1917 revolution of Russia led to the decolonization process in different parts of the world in the colonized areas like Africa and Asia. As you can see that after the Russian Revolution, many different countries in the world which were colonized by the Western power started to gain their independence. As you can see, whereby Russia helped the nationalist moral and material, like provided food, money, advice and guns to the nationalists in order to defeat colonialism, because Russia believed that colonialism and capitalism is like brother and sister, due to the fact that it colonized the people, humiliating them, looking for labor, raw materials, expanding market in different colonized areas for the world. So you can see that after the Russian Revolution, you can see that different parts of the world which were colonized by the colonial masters of Western Europe were started to surrender those areas, as USSR supported those African and Asian countries to decolonize all those Western foreigners, as they provided equipments, military equipments, guns, foods, money and advices, as well as techniques on how they will use to decolonize or to remove or to gain their freedom that was taken by the foreigners. And the Russians believed that colonialism was like relatives between colonialism and capitalism, and that's why they decided to fight against colonialism by supporting the African and Asian countries to decolonize the foreigners. As they say that colonialism and capitalism colonialism and capitalism is like brother and sister, due to the fact that it's colonized the people, humiliating them, looking for labor, raw materials, expanding markets in different colonized areas for the world. So that was another effect of the Russian Revolution of 1917 to the world. Another effect was Russian Revolution of 1917 led to nationalization of all private properties and wealth in other socialist countries in the world. For example, private property, rent, bank, factory were nationalized and put under the control of the government in different socialist countries for the benefit of the people in those countries. To mean that the Russian Revolution has insisted on the nationalization of all property that were owned by the foreigners and the capitalists, as well as churches, landlords and the ruling class. It means that all property that were owned by those classes or by the ruling class was nationalized to be under the government. And those land which were owned by the landlords, church and the crowns or crown prince or kings or queens were given to the peasants or to the majority of the people who were landless. So you can see that the Russian Revolution led to the imitation or adoption of that policy of nationalization of properties from the few people or capitalists to be under the central government, or to be under the government and the people or the majority of the country. Another was the revolution of 1917 led to the formation of non-allied movements in the third world countries or poor nations, whereby these poor countries formed the non-allied movement in order to government economic, political and social as well as technical assistance from both socialist and the capitalist countries in order to gain economic, political, social and technical assistance from both socialist and the capitalist countries. To mean that the revolution of 1917 led to the formation of non-allied movement or NAM in 1959 during the Bandung Conference. During 1955 during the Bandung Conference in Indonesia. Thus, the NAM or non-allied movement, these were countries that were neither supporting capitalists or socialists. So they decided to form that movement with the aim of receiving economic, political, social and technical assistance from both countries, because they were not supporting either capitalism or socialism. That was another effect of Russian Revolution of 1917. But also another effect was the revolution of 1917 led to the emergence of the two enmity blocks in the system of production and administration, whereby the socialists invited themselves under the Eastern Bloc, while capitalism led the followers of the system to unite themselves under the Western Bloc. And these two blocks existed until the early of 1990, when the socialism collapsed in Russia due to economic and political reforms occurred in the world. It means that the revolution of 1917 led to the emergence of enmity blocks, whereby there were Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. And those blocks were competing in the system of production and the administration, whereby the socialists invited themselves under the Eastern Bloc and the capitalists invited themselves under the Western Bloc. It means that the Eastern Bloc or the Socialist Bloc were under the USSR and the Western Bloc under the USA. So these were blocks which were competing in production and the administration in the world. And as you can see, these enmity all those blocks were ended in the early of 1990s after the collapse of Russia due to the different economic and the political reforms that was done in the world, and that led to the collapse or decline of Russia in 1990s. So this was all about so these were all the effects of Russian Revolution of October 1917 to the world. So as we have seen the effects of Russian Revolution to the effects of Russian Revolution to the world. So I would like to give you the exercise which is on one question, that states that explain the effects of Russian Revolution of October 1917 to the world. So this is the question which you have to tackle from 60 students in order to expand your knowledge and understanding about what we have learned today. So thank you for watching, and I would like to welcome you in the upcoming session. Bye bye.